Good evening. Glad you're tuning in. You're going to have a special speaker here in a second, but I wanted to fill you in on my little adventure that I got to go on, and an adventure it was. My dad is home back with me now, safe and sound. We got in this afternoon around noonish. It was interesting to say the least. His house is great. Our neighborhood is not even close to great. It's awful. My town is awful, and that's being kind. I can't say what I really want to say on video or in front of you. We've had flooding before. I can remember when I was in college, I couldn't get home. They had to leave. This is, honest to goodness, the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I will have lots of pictures and lots of videos for you over the next few days. Eli did a good job of documenting everything, but they are in a jam for sure. Eli and I were joking yesterday as we were cutting the tree up. This is the only thing my dad wanted us to do. He had a big tree fall in his yard. That was his big deal. He's like, you got to come cut it. You got to get it up. I'm thinking, your house is still standing. The tree can wait. No, got to get the tree. Tree's got to get cut up now. So we cut the tree up, but the amount of mud that's there, we live right next to a quarry. And they dump all the dirt that they dig over behind our house. We called it the snake pit because it's full of snakes. But had a lot of great memories over there. But as I'm working in this mud, I have terrible balance now. I'm walking in mud that kind of sucks your feet in. So I'm off balance already. Plus that with a chainsaw, cutting up a tree. It was great. It's great fun. So I had to be very careful and very intentional. Say it again. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. For a couple of hours, it was running. My childhood neighbors, they were not so lucky. They had water and mud come through their house. And the last that I talked to them before we left yesterday, I said, what are you going to do? She's like, well, we're going to go to Alabama for 2 weeks. I'm coming back, but we're not moving back here. So they're leaving their home of probably 50 years or more, and really just taking what things they can get out. And so most of the houses are going to be like that. In our town, just the Swanano River that's there, it was unbelievable, the damage that river created. Roads were gone, bridges were out. Where Sally lives, her little church that she grew up in is basically gone. It was cut in half by water. Most of the people haven't gotten out of that area yet because of the roads that are so broken up. And there's little pockets all over our area, all over Western North Carolina like that. So it's pretty bad. So Sunday I'll have more to say. I hope to have a plan in place for us to go. And so appreciate the prayers. Thanks for letting me go. I appreciate that. And I know for some of y'all, you're like, are you kidding? For a pastor on one of the biggest days of the year of celebration, to have the freedom and the confidence of his people to be able to leave, it's very unusual, just so you know. Most pastors would never have done that. But I'm confident in you guys. I'm confident in our leadership here. And I knew that I needed to go. And so thank you for the prayers, the encouragement. And so it means more to me than I could ever express to you. So happy to answer questions later. But if you could give me about a day and a half to kind of process through everything, I would greatly appreciate that. It is a lot. So it's starting to hit me now. Now I'm back home and resting. So I'll be cutting grass the next 2 days to process through everything. So that's how I'm going to cope with it. Go cut grass. Right, Dennis? That's how we cope. Save the world on the lawnmower. Promise you. So how about we pray? And please, as you pray, just remember the Swanano Valley. That's where we live. That's what it's called. And there's other pockets, but that's the one that our hearts are really in tune to. So God, to say that I am thankful doesn't even come close to the level of appreciation that I have for you and your power and your provision. Lord, I know that our little street was very lucky compared to the rest of that area. And yet the devastation that's there is just unbelievable and indescribable. But I am thankful for you. I'm thankful for your mercy. I'm thankful for your provisions and the people that you have empowered to be there, to serve, and to love on our Shenandoah Valley. Thank you for the people that are praying all over our nation, and just how good you really are in the midst of a dire circumstance. And I pray, Father, that you would leverage this opportunity to allow your love to flow through your people, that the valley would feel and understand just how good and great you really are, that it would turn their hearts towards you, and that it will be a success story in a new, fresh way. God, I have no clue what tomorrow holds for them, what next year holds for them, but you do, and that's where I'm going to place my trust, because I know you know what's best. Help us as a church, help me as a leader and as a Shenandoah Valley boy to know how best to serve that community, how best to lead our people here and to serve that community, and just serve communities all over that just need you. So I pray that you would give us wisdom, discernment, and may your hand be on them and protect them in all ways. So thanks that we know that you hear our prayers and you can answer them in great and cool ways, but you're also here with us now as we just dive into your word. I pray that you would be with Bill. You would speak to us as we dive in and see what you have for us tonight. And may you continue to do what only you can do in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for filling in, Bill.
We'll see if they'll be saying the same thing. Good evening, everybody. I was going to start off with a conversation about Alan not being here tonight, but so that just stole about 5 minutes worth of conversations. But we're going to be talking tonight from chapter 19 of Exodus. So we'll go ahead and keep on marching on as the Israelites were doing. Segue. Kim said I have to work on my segues, so I'm going to see if I can't. I just realized I made the mistake of stapling my papers together. All right. So as we're following the Israelites marching through the deserts and going through the different wildernesses, it brings us to chapter 19, which runs, in the 3rd month after the children of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai, where they had departed from Rephidim, had come to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. So it opens up, it's giving you the timeline here. This is now 3 months after they left Egypt. This is 3 full moons later. They're camping at the foot of the mountains in the wilderness of Sinai, and all along, we've got a chance to hear all the Israelites giving all their grumblings and all their problems and so all the things they've got against Moses and their inability to see the forest through the trees, as it were. So they arrived at this place that is, geographically speaking, it is east of Egypt, pretty much directly east. It's on the other side of the Sinai Peninsula, depending upon who you're talking to, and they've covered a lot of ground in these 3 months. So there's a little bit of controversy. I'm not sure if that's the right word for this, but a little bit of controversy as to where they actually are. There are some people that said that the Mount Sinai, which is where they were, is on the Sinai Peninsula, which is basically just one cross of the Red Sea over. And there are some people that say that it's actually in Arabia, which is one other cross of the Red Sea over. So there is an official Mount Sinai in the Sinai Peninsula, which is clever naming. There is a Mount Sinai, sort of, in what they actually call the Mountain of Moses in Arabia. And there's also a Mount Sinai in New York. I'm pretty sure the Bible scholars have discounted that one, so you can kind of cross that off the list. That's right. They had to cross the Hudson. So as we try to figure this stuff out, like there's not a lot of documents that say like where the actual Mount Sinai is, and that's because it's not that important to the Jewish people, the Israelites, to the actual physical mountain's not really as important as the story, as what actually occurred. So as we kind of go through this and we learn about what happened there, we kind of keep that in mind. But should you ever research those things and you kind of take a look at the Mountain of Moses, it's pretty darn interesting stuff to look at, and to see the mountain, and the top of the mountain is actually black. So as we kind of go through this, if you're not familiar with this part of the story, it'll make a little bit more sense. So, verse 3, and Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which I shall speak to the children of Israel. So God calls Moses, calls him up the mountains. Maybe Moses is halfway up the mountain, maybe something like this, but he's just telling him, you got to come on up the rest of the way. And I want to tell you something. And I want you to say this to all the Israelites down there. So here's my message. I'm going to tell it to you. You tell it to them. In verse 4, he says, you saw what happened to the Egyptians. Now, basically God saying, you saw my might. You saw the plagues that I brought on to them when they refused to let you go. You saw how it is I released the waters of the sea and just swallowed them up. You saw the power of God. And the next line, he still goes on, I protected you through this. I separated you from the angel of death. I kept you dry away from the sea that would absolutely have demolished them, drowned them. They walked across dry ground. He kept them dry. He held you in a safe place, just like the wings of an eagle. So when we talk about the wings of an eagle, when an eagle wants to hold its young, it actually can hold it up over its shoulders. Now, I'm not saying it can actually fly with it on there, but that's one of the places where an eagle will hold its fledgling. It'll hold it actually on its shoulders. If we look at some other parts of the Bible, in Matthew 23:37, we hear Jesus say, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I want to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you are not willing. So here's another example of the bird kind of protecting the fledgling, protecting the smaller bird. In Deuteronomy 32:11, it reads, as an eagle stirs up its nest, hovers over its young, spreading out its wings, taking them up, carrying them on its wings. So the Lord alone led him, and there was no foreign god with him. God's talking about, in this verse 4, he's talking about his power, but he's also talking about his gentleness, his love for his people, and how it is that he provided grace, how it is that he was there for the might, and he was there for the comfort. He was there for the gentleness. As he moves into this verse, from this verse, God suggesting a covenant. This is now a covenant for the Israelites. He's saying, follow me, follow my instruction, mind my warnings, obey, and then you will be a special treasure. You will be blessed. My love will rain down on you, and you will feel the full beauty of the Lord. Does anyone own a collection of things like rare coins or Hummels, those little things like that. Anyone collect anything? No? Okay, there you go. So these things are special to you, right? Yeah. They're things that I'm collecting them. I've spent a lot of time. I've invested a lot of energy in them. I always want to kind of set them aside and protect them so that my collection doesn't get broken of Hummels or whatever it is. Root beer. Okay, root beer like Hires. I'm not even familiar with Hires, so I'm gonna have to take a break and look that up. Oh. All right, so the addition to your collection is not quite a little bit more challenging, but it's as if there's a collection. How it is that we treasure that, we set it aside, we hold it separate from other things, and that's where God is. God is saying, like, I've set you aside. You are the treasure. If you, this is now we're moving into. I'm getting ahead of myself. No, I'm right. Okay. As God talks about this covenant, this agreement, it's conditional. The condition is you follow me. You do as I say. That sounded really bad, but follow me. Follow my instruction. Mind my warnings. You do those things, and I will bless you. I will treat you like my collection of Hires root beer. Does that work? All right. So, but we'll hold you aside. We'll set you aside, and I will do all those great things. He goes on to say, and just so you understand, for the whole earth is mine. He's not a local God. He's not just a God for the Israelites at this time, in this place, in this little area. He's a God that is over all of the earth. So he has this omnipotence for everything. But also he's saying he's the God for as in one. So there is one God for all over. And that's what he's reiterating here. I'm the God for over the whole earth is mine. He's got a powerful jurisdiction over everything. So he's saying, follow me and you will be a blessed nation, a nation that's sanctified, spiritually overflowing, unlike any other people. Like, this is a great thing. Like, that sounds like an agreement that anybody else would want to be into, right? And if you even look at it, so he's saying, moving forward, if you follow me, I'm going to bless you. But if you go back to verse 4, he says, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. In this covenant, God's not just talking about what's going to happen from this moment on. God's saying he's already doing it. He's already been protecting. He's already been giving them blessings. He's already had them under his wing. Like God not only is making a promise for what's to come, he's showing, like, I already started it. Like, that's how it is. That's how much I love you. That's how much I'm in. That's how much the covenant is to him. God's got that position. So even today, as we kind of look at that covenant, even today, God still has this suggested covenant with us. If you follow him, if you follow Jesus, he will give you blessings and life fuller. And the great thing is, he's already started that. He's already giving us the blessings. He gave us Jesus. He knows that, like, there's no way that we're going to be able to do it on our own. He knew no way that the Israelites were going to be able to. He was taking care of them just like he's going to take care of us. He gave us the pathway. That's his covenant. Follow him, and he'll give you blessings. And guess what? I've already handled that part. So whatever it is that we do for God, whatever it is that mission we're on, God started before us. God's already done it for us. And this is what he's asked his people, and this is what he wants Moses to tell them. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? All right, don't make me leave early.
number 5, he said, if you will obey my voice indeed, that's how, right?
Yep.
Well, in my Bible it says, well, it's the same Bible, but I'm just reading the Spanish version, and it says, if you hear my voice, I can hear multiple voices, but I can decide which voice I'm gonna truly hear and understand and analyze what that person is saying.
Yeah.
He said, if you hear my voice and follow me, well, let me see the English version, and keep my covenant. So keep my status, follow my status. He's talking about if you decide to hear what I said and follow me, it's gonna be good. You're gonna have blessings in your life. Meaning, when I translate this to these days, if you decide to hear the voice of God and follow His status, it's not just follow Him because a miracle or just emotions.
Yeah.
Follow Him because you decide to do so. It's a lifestyle that you have to keep going in order to keep strengthening. He said at the beginning, and he says applies to you decide to hear God's voice and follow Him, it's going to be good for you. But you have to have that as a lifestyle and not just based on emotions and just one moment.
And like the greatest word out of everything you said to me was the word decide. Is that you are deciding, you're choosing, you're making a decision that I'm going to do this. And it's not a one and done decision. Like we have to every day decide that we are going to turn away from evil. We're going to turn away from ourselves, and we're going to keep the covenant. We're going to follow Him. And I realize, like, over time, you keep doing that, and you get to know Him more. The decision gets much easier, but it's still the decision that we've got to make. We have to decide that we're going to do this, and we can't extend that decision off to somebody else. We can't say, well, we made that decision for our family, and so our kids are. That's not the way that works. It's an individual decision. So so I really appreciate the specifically putting that word in there. So thanks.
Bill, I was thinking when you were talking about that they saw what He did to the Egyptians.
Yeah.
I just made a quick list just for my own thought. Okay, what did He do? He showed His power. He showed His creativity. So He's not just some bland God that just does specific things. It's very specific things. Showed a lot of patience. 10 different times it goes back and says, hey, here's another shot. And so the children of Israel are watching this patient, righteous God work with these not-hidden people, but still know that, okay, He's going to continue to work with them. And then just the willingness to work with even people that are evil. It's beyond us. We would rather Him exact things, but it's comforting for me to know that if He's willing to be that patient and willing to work with Him, then He's going to do the same with me. And the difference between the two people were they decided to follow Him, and the Egyptians did not. So they did get the blessings from that. It didn't mean that everything was going to be easy.
You're right.
Right? I mean, man, like, who will eat that for 40 years? But so I don't know. It's interesting that to me, it's not just about the justice and it's I'm going to get him. It's I'm really going to try to convince him that this is what is good for him.
Well, and it's that restraint, because if we figure for the 10th plague, if he was able to do that, he could have made that plague number 1 and and just, okay, you guys you're getting out. So, but that wasn't part of his strategy. That wasn't part of his plan. He had much bigger that as we can probably sit here for the next half hour or an hour and never come up with as many potentials for what that strategy even is. So,
are you insinuating that he got a plan?
Well, I feel at first I thought he was shooting from the hip, but now I'm kind of feeling like, that like he's one of these gods that like just knows everything, and a little intentional, yes, right. And so keeping on the theme of intentional, that goes back to our decision. Like it's an intentional decision that we have to say, because we are going to have this pull, but it is something that we are going to have to kind of fight against and make that decision. Yeah.
One thing you mentioned about is the one God over everything. Mm-hmm. And you have to look in, I don't know, most if not all the God and other people's gods, they have multiple gods. They have fertility God, God of the dead,
yep,
God of life, God of the day, and so they'd be worshiping the 15 different people or idols, whatever.
Yep. Yeah, and he says
the one God that controls everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed that he does.
Yeah, well, and that's it. It's I am it, and I oversee everything. Like and it goes back to what's the definition of everything? Everything.
Yeah, I just was going to say, it also seems like this may be in the perspective of all the belly that's happening with the hell.
Yeah.
Hey, did you just see me do this? What's going on? Can you go back to them and say, hey, I got this?
Mm-hmm.
Because they were clearly asking, why did we stay there? Because we would have been much better off in bondage than what we're struggling with here.
And once he points that out, like that's it for that, right? Like they don't ever think twice. They don't ever fall back. It's God has to remind them, hey, remember all the stuff that I've done for you. Remember all these things, and I really feel like he's setting them up to say like I'm already protecting you, but to say you all this grumbling, hey, remember me. Look at all the stuff that I've done, but 20 minutes from now, they're going to go right back to it. So.
You are being real good, but together with the fellowship, there's a condition in that you don't take it as food. And so, from there on out, it's always our relationship with God. It's always based on the condition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what that word is. When we see that word is, there's a condition involved with it.
Yep.
That's what I think about.
And we're also talking about under the old covenant in the Old Testament. So there are I don't want to say tasks, but I guess that might be the best word right now. But there are things that God's asking for them to do out of obedience, and that's where it is that even way back when we talk about circumcision, it's like there's a choice in this realm that is like that really is a commitment. And so God's asking them, I want you to do this so that I can bless you. I want to see that you're all in. And that's where it is here is I want you to follow me and listen to my instructions and be mine and you so you can get that blessing. Thanks, Phil. Any other thoughts? All right. Verse 7. So Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before them all these words which the Lord commanded them. Then all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken we will do. So Moses brought back the words of the people to the Lord. So Moses goes back down the mountain just as God instructed, and he meets with all the elders. Now he meets with the elders because he can't meet with the millions of people at the same time. They didn't have a very good sound system at the bottom of the mountain, so they couldn't do it. But anyway, he recites back what it is that Moses told them to say. They all looked at Moses and were like, "Yeah, we're all in. We love all of it. Yeah, he did all these things. Yep, that's us. We're in. We want this coming." Verse 9, he says, and the Lord said to Moses, behold, I come to you in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you and believe you forever. So Moses told the words of the people to the Lord. So Moses goes back up the mountain, and by now I'm pretty sure Moses' calves are probably burning. I heard a couple of snickers. I appreciate that. He goes back up the mountain and lets God know that the people are in. They're all in. Sounds a little bit like a negotiation where God tells Moses something and Moses goes down and tells the people, and then he goes back up and then comes back down. It's like trying to buy a car and he's got to go talk to the general manager or something. So, and of course, God offers up this great deal. So you follow me, you'll be blessed. The children of Israel say, yeah, we know a great deal we want. When we get it, we see it, give it to me. So Moses goes back up the mountain to bring the response. Now, do you think that God was waiting, wringing his hands, wondering what the Israelites were going to say? Do you think he was like, oh, getting real nervous? Oh, Moses is coming back up. I wonder if they're in, wonder if they're not. No. I'm pretty sure God already knew what was going on. He knew the answer, and he knows exactly how it all plays out. But Moses comes back up, and to tell him that God now starts revealing some of the plan. This is what's going to happen. God says, I'm going to show myself as a thick, dark cloud. So going back to the science stuff, a thick cloud, a nice dense cloud, is going to block out more of the sun. Therefore, it will be dark. So as he says, a thick cloud, it's going to be a thick, dark cloud. And he says, this is how it is. I'm going to reveal myself, and I'm going to show myself as a thick, dark cloud. This is not the only time in the Bible where God presents himself as a thick, dark cloud. Solomon talks about it in 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles, where basically the thick cloud was in the temple, and God was in that. So this is not unusual as you kind of go through the Bible for God to present himself as this thick cloud. So God says, I'm going to present myself as a thick, dark cloud when I talk to you, so everyone can see that I talk to you, that you're my guy, you're the voice of the people, you're my authority, and I want it to be clear. So he goes on, verse 10. Then the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. So I guess they've got laundry day on some level here. But in verse 10, he says, now go and declare the people to be holy. They've said that they want to enter this covenant. Go to them, tell them they're going to be holy, and do that today and tomorrow, and have them wash their clothes. Now, washing their clothes sounds kind of awkward. But to some people, probably falling backwards or being pushed backwards into a tub of water sounds a little bit different. And so this is kind of the thing of the day, is washing the clothes really kind of meant that that was the outward expression of a transformation, that they were cleansing their bodies. So their clothes were clean, and they were kind of a newer, I don't want to say creation, but it was a fresh and clean kind of a theory. So, and this took place over a 2-day period. As God is talking about this is okay. So we're going to enter this covenant, and I want you to prepare because I'm going to reveal myself. So this is all part of how God is instructing them. So they said that they were going to follow his instruction. So it starts now. So God's instructing them to prepare themselves for when it is that he reveals himself. Anybody have any thoughts up till now? Well, yeah. Well, I don't know how far away they got from the rock that had the water. So they would have had a nice jet or something like that. But either way, it's that I assume that there was some kind of water somewhere around there. But they can get a pretty good one.
some certain situations where you don't have water, you can use sand.
Is he abrasive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking is that this is where God's setting things up. If you're gonna come meet me, this is what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
You need to concentrate yourself. That means everything's got to be right. Your clothes have got to be clean. Your mind has got to be clean. Your spirit's got to be clean. And you've got to be ready to hear.
Yep. And that's his, we'll get into a couple more things that he's asking of them, but that's it. It's okay. If you're in, do these things. And you better be ready. And we'll talk more about like how ready are they kind of.
Now, if he wanted to add water, he would have water spring up from the mountain.
Yep.
There's no problem with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think a lot of it has to be continue to see the scriptures and self-consecrating stuff. But I think like a lot of it has to do with just your posture before God. Just how are you coming to Him? Are you coming with the things you're in? Or are you actually like coming in a posture that's humble and looking toward Him as God?
So you bring up a really good point, and it reminded me of, as I was growing up, you went to church in your Sunday best, so you were clean, you had on the nice clothes, over time, you go wearing jeans, you go wearing shorts, and that sort of thing. And of course, my mother would have probably punched us in the nose for doing that, but again, is it really about what it is that you're wearing, or is it about why you choose to wear what you're wearing? What is it you talk about humbling yourself, and I think that's key, because that's what's going on in your heart. Whether you've got cutoffs or if you've got jeans on or something, it may not be, as Phil Shaken said, may not be quite as important as much as where your heart is. That some people may argue, well, you're in church, that's half the battle. But to figure out where it is your heart, what's your intention behind everything. I just step on something that I shouldn't have.
In your clique,
What's that?
in your clique, you like landline?
It's kind of like that parable. Jesus was saying, the king had that feast for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, hey, I'm not busy, I'm doing stuff. So go out there and find other people to come in. Well, then he goes to the king and said, they going through. He's basically, how did you get in here? He said, you didn't wash and change yourself. Type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, when the Lord is saying here, get sanctified, get clean, and everything, it doesn't mean, oh, I'm invited. I can just, you obviously take this off, put that on, do whatever. It means, no, you've got to get right, get clean, or else you're going to get cast out.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of like the Lord saying, if you're not doing this to His own kids here, then, you're going to wander for a little bit more. So I guess you kind of call it parallel.
Well, and I think as you kind of look at even through a lot of stuff in the New Testament of washing of feet, and and beyond as a service, but like even with Mary and Martha, that type of thing, and dusting off your sandals, and that's like there's a lot of that, the cleanliness that comes with it. Even I don't know, this popped in my mind all of a sudden as the blind man was told to wash the mud off his face. It was that cleansing that makes you present. That's talking about being presentable.
Not what's going in, what's coming out.
Yeah. Hey, Phil. Okay.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing anybody.
Yeah.
I look at it, I'm coming for God, His house.
Yes.
If I were to go to the White House, I would just go to the
Yes. Yep.
How much more, how much more is it coming before God? This is sanctuary. This is where it's going. That's what I look at, that I'm coming before Him. So that should wear my best, whether it's a set of life, whether it's my best. That's what
And where does that initiate? When you're a kid. But where does that desire, where does that live? That lives inside. Right. And so it is still like, that's where my heart is. I want to show respect. I want to show that I'm desiring that I'm in someplace special, that I'm in the presence, I'm worshiping. I want that to shine through even in what it is I'm wearing. So yeah. You're right. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, like, I think we have to be kind of careful how we kind of position ourselves. I think it's easy to say, well, you have to come clean to God. And I think a lot of us have come straight to God and come left to God, however you want to say it. And I think, like, that's where we have to think. I like the word posture better because that's our position of our heart versus our exterior and how we're necessarily looking like we're coming to God and actually how we are coming to God. So I think we just have to be careful with that. You know, because there's a lot of people who I think maybe turned off to like hear like, oh, God had it all together before you come before me. I think now God will take us at where we are as long as we're in a good spot.
Yes, I agree with that. But we were talking about specialty. It's different. It's different for us than somebody that's coming from the outside. And so, yes, those that are coming from the outside, coming from water, we should come a little bit different, with a different heart posture. But I would say that, I mean, God pretty clearly talking to Samuel that I don't care about the outer appearance. I'm looking at the heart. And so it's one of those things of you got to work that out between you and God. If God says, hey, you need to come in suit and tie, because that's what I expect, that's what feels good to me, that's where that needs to be. But if it's about, well, I want people to see that I'm coming this way, then the heart posture is not in the right spot. It's in the wrong spot. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's a tricky, very sticky wicket that it's a big rabbit trail, because I actually wrote that down on my paper. Because you talked earlier about the task. If we are too much about the task, we leave out who we really should be in Him. But if we're who we are in Him, the task will be the obedience, and that's what He wants more than anything else. David said it, I don't care about the sacrifices. God, you don't care about this. You want my heart to be in the right position. That's what you're looking for. That's what Samuel said. It's not about the sacrifices. He wants you to obey and to listen to His voice. And that's what we're seeing here, and that's what He calls for us. But if I feel that He's calling me to, hey, don't wear a hat in church, which I don't feel He's calling me to that because I'm wearing one now. Or, hey, you need to dress up on Sunday. Right? That's between me and God. I can't hold everybody else to that standard because that's between He and I. But there are standards that are universal for all of us. Come with an obedient heart, with a repentant heart, with a heart that wants to hear from Him. I think those are two different things that, if we're not careful, we try to marry them too much, and it gets a little icky. It goes back to churches that I grew up in that I'm not interested in being part of.
Does it have anything to do with close to church?
Yes. Suits and ties.
What you just said reminds me of the conversation we've been speaking about modesty and like women and dress in the whole thing that we struggle with all the time.
that for her, she said it's not for everyone, but the reason she did it was because she knew the reasoning behind why she was married. She wanted to wear tight clothing to get the attention of others. So she said it doesn't matter if you're wearing a tight skirt, you have the same reason behind you. So it's what your heart is desiring from your clothing, not necessarily what you're wearing. So if you have things hanging out or things too tight, then you're desiring something that you're not supposed to be desiring. But if you're not looking at your clothing in that way and you don't realize you're doing something like that, then your heart's going to be that just reminded me of that. So it's more what your heart is desiring, not what your body, what you desire, like what you want to get out of it.
Mhm.
That's kind of like Heather.
And also we may be blind to some things that we may think like, oh, it's not about what I wear, but you may not realize things that you're wearing, or other people may think differently, and so being able to have an open heart to listen to the things that are meant out of love. So yeah. Did you have something?
Easter, people go out on Christmas, they buy brand new outfits. There's people who can't afford them. And I myself will not have a special Christmas outfit, Christmas Eve, or Easter, because I don't want to discourage anybody from coming.
Mhm.
It's just something that I thought that, I don't know where it came from, but I just,
Yeah.
I'll wear dress clothes, but I am not dressed up. I'm dressed up brand new.
I won't do it because I'm a cheapskate. Verse 11. And let them be ready. Remember, we're still talking about this preparation. And let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day, the Lord will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. You shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, take heed to yourselves that you do not go up to the mountain or touch its base. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. Not a hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot with an arrow. Whether man or beast, he shall not live. When the trumpet sounds long, they shall not come near the mountain. So God's message here is continuing. They've already declared holy. They've already put on a clean set of duds. And on the third day, he's saying, be ready. Be ready for this third day. The Lord's going to show himself to the Israelites. He tells Moses to tell the people, on this third day, I'm going to come down upon the mountain. So like that word upon, like kind of struck me, because he doesn't say I'm going to come down on the mountain. He doesn't say I'm going to come down in the mountain. I'm not going to come down around the mountain. I'm going to come down upon the mountain, which almost makes me think of the word overtaking. I'm going to overtake the mountain. This mountain that is like just a pile of dirt. There's nothing about this mountain that's holy. There's nothing about it that it's just basically a big rock that the tectonic plates moved and crust and I don't know, something. But so there's nothing really special about the mountain itself. But once God overtakes it, it'll be a holy place. The Israelites were impure. They've got to go through these steps, just like what Ted's talking about. They've got to go through these steps to prepare themselves, but yet they're still not there. So God tells Moses he's got to set up a boundary around the base of the mountain so that nobody would touch it. Don't climb on it. Don't step foot on it. Don't try to touch it. It'll be a holy mountain of God. And the Israelites just weren't there. They would not be able to handle the immense glory of God by even approaching that mountain. So here's some more of that preparation. Is we want you to wash your clothes. We need you to clean out all the stuff in your head, and also don't come near the mountain. If anyone does touch the mountain, they should be put to death. Now, I don't feel that God's saying that he will put them to death, because he's saying nobody's going to actually touch them, but basically he's going to get stoned. So wouldn't that make it sound like everybody else? That's the punishment from everyone. That's kind of what I got out of that by stoning or shooting with an arrow. And it makes no difference whether it's a goat or whether it's a person. But once they hear that trumpet sound, they've got to stay away. And it immediately kind of reminds me of the Ark of the Covenant and Odom that touched the Ark. And yeah, okay. I think it was, I feel like it was Odom, but I have to verify that one. But it reminds me of the Ark where someone did touch it and immediately they died. Any?
Yeah, when you were studying, did they say anything about 3 days?
So, yes, but I got that at the end. Thanks.
I'm glad you do.
Yep. So, everyone good so far? All right.
Hey, I'm just returning the favor.
Appreciate it. 14, right? Is that where I am? 14?
Yeah.
So Moses, getting his cardio in, went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, be ready for the 3rd day. Do not come near your wives. So I don't know if I need to explain that one. But you have to take all these things in concert. It's all about preparing themselves, cleansing their mind, cleansing all the stuff going on. But it's also that outward expression. It's keep all the things that could distract you from what's about to happen. So this is just another step in that preparation. Verse 16, then it came to pass on the 3rd day in the morning that there was thundering and lightning and a thick cloud on the mountain. And the sound of the trumpet was very loud, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. So Moses told them all what was about to happen. This is like, get ready. Like, it wasn't like they were just going out about their everyday lives and all of a sudden this stuff happened. But there was a lot of this thunder and the lightning, and you think like, well, you know what? Thunder and lightning, like I've seen thunder and lightning. But it would have been really powerful. It would have been enough to turn some heads. But then there's also this really thick cloud that surrounds the mountain. A little bit more unusual than what would have happened. And this cloud, I assume, would be emitting a lot of that lightning and the thunderclaps and so forth. But also, there's a trumpet, a loud trumpet. And I don't think that this trumpet was coming from the camp. This would have been a sound from the heavens making an announcement. And it could have been angels playing trumpets or anything like that, but it would have been loud and it most definitely would have been noticeable. Verse 17, and Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with God. And they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was completely in smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of the furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. Moses brings them all up to the mountain. Remember, they've got their boundaries, so they need to kind of keep their distance from it. They're down at the lower part, basically at the base, and the power and the force of that billowing fire, that smoke that completely covered the mountain, overtook Mount Sinai, literally shook the mountain. So this definitely had their attention. Like, this was in all God. This is another one of those times where God was not subtle about anything that he was doing. This was God. In verse 19, and when the blast of the trumpet sounded long and became louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him by voice. Then the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain. And the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. So Moses back up the mountain. I wish I could have counted how many times he was going up and down. But in 19, the trumpet, you hear the trumpet is just getting louder and louder and longer and louder till eventually Moses got to, like, I gotta say something, and and God answers it back. At this point, like, we see just this dark, thick cloud, and God at the top of the mountain is basically just covering much of that mountain. You probably see Moses probably about halfway, maybe a little bit more elevated on the mountain, because he has to kind of address a group of people, so he's standing up, and then you've got the people that are all down at the base of the mountain, and you kind of put together a little bit of a picture of God at the top of the mountain, the people down at the bottom, and Moses just elevated above the people, which kind of goes back to where God made sure that they saw that he was an authority from God. He was God's voice. And so you almost kind of put together this little picture of that hierarchy here. 21, and the Lord said to Moses, go down and warn the people, lest they break through gaze at the Lord, and many of them perish. Also let the priests who come near to the Lord consecrate themselves, lest the Lord break out against them. But Moses said to the Lord, the people cannot come out to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, set bounds around the mountain and consecrate it. Then the Lord said to him, go away, get down, and then come up. You and Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. So God calls Moses back up to the mountain to tell him to go down the mountain, and remind everybody, like, we've got those barriers up. Don't go past the barriers. And he's saying, even the priests, the ones that are holy, even the priests are not there. They're not holy enough. They're not consecrated enough. And remind them that to stay exactly where they are, and don't try to come up the mountain or they will die. So Moses is like, yeah, we warned them. We set up the boundaries. We did just what you said. We followed that instruction. They can't go past that. And that's when God tells them, okay, go down and get Aaron. So as we kind of go through chapter 19, we see where God prepares everyone. He gives them preparation. He tells them about denying themselves. He talks about cleansing themselves. He talks about setting boundaries. But also, as Alan kind of alluded to, we also talk about that connection to another story in the Bible where this was 3 days. So 3 days, he's asking the people to prepare themselves for God to reveal himself. And as we look at the life of Jesus, and during that time, when Jesus died, that was the time to prepare themselves as Jesus had actually instructed prior, to prepare themselves to get ready for when God would reveal himself and all the glory and all the shock and awe that God can deliver. So those 3 days was in preparation of the big reveal. Does anyone have any thoughts? I know I buzzed through like the end of that, but. Nothing? Okay. All right. Well, then, that being said, I want to make sure everyone comes back on Sunday. So be here Sunday. Also, I'm just letting you know, J-Town is October 13th.
Yeah.
It's my shameless plug. But so it'll be right here on October 13th. But we'll go to the Lord in prayer, and then we'll all night. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your word. We thank you for the story and so much information that we're able to get out of just this one chapter, Lord, and just how it is that before we were even born, you were taking care of us. Before we even had that decision to make, before we had that choice, you had our back. You gave us the pathway. You were there for the Israelites. You're there for us now. You'll be there for us forever, Lord. But I pray that we can recognize that, and every day we realize we don't have the symptoms of the Israelites where we just kind of regress and move back away from you. Lord, I pray that we get to know you more and more every day, And just that decision gets so much easier and easier and easier because of how much it is that you've shown your love for us with your son, Jesus. Lord, I ask you just to help keep us safe as we travel and we go to our work and our jobs and schools and just all the things that we get involved with, and just help keep our focus on you and your son and your gift. In the name of your son, Jesus Christ, amen. Tables and chairs, tables and chairs. Thank you, everyone. Bye.